Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Tales from the Merworld Radio. This is a program where we explore ancient lands like Atlantis, Lemuria, Avalon. We go into esoteric concepts, we go into sacred geometry, we go into symbolism. We basically look at all of those things out in the world that are, sixth sensory or multidimensional. And I have a very good way, of a very good talent for taking big concepts and breaking them down and allowing them to be very understandable to, to the left brain, very understandable to your soul, so that when we think about these concepts, when we think about things like 5D and the new earth and Atlantis, like, what does that mean? Well, if you can really understand and internalize things in a very simple, understandable, and uncomplicated way, then it allows us to come into a bigger, more fuller expression of our multidimensional selves, our purpose on earth, and ultimately bring us into joy. And one of the topics I've not explored yet on this program is space. And what's more ancient than space, right? Outer space. And I am very excited and delighted to bring you my guest today. The wonderful James Gilliland of ECETI Ranch is here today to bring us his intel on all the things that he knows, all the things that he enjoys, and all the things that he is here to teach on Earth, specifically having to do with, our extraterrestrial brothers and sisters. So before I bring James on, if he's new to you, I mean, if you've been living in a cave or under a rock, maybe you've never heard of James Gilliland before at ECETI Ranch. So just in case, here's the rundown of his bio. James is an international lecturer, a minister, counselor, multiple near-death experiencer, songwriter, Anunnaki return with Out of Black Gypsies contactee. And I'm very excited to hear more about that. He's a best-selling author of Reunion with Source, Becoming Gods, The Ultimate Soul Journey, and Anunnaki Return. He's the founder of ECETI Ranch, ECETI Stargate, YouTube, hosts a As You Wish talk radio on PBS, has appeared on numerous times on Coast to Coast, where he was the first to do an extremely successful global intentional experiment for contact. He also appeared on Midnight in the Desert, Jeff Brent's Fade to Black, and too many others to document. He is the host of the documentaries Contact Has Begun and The Uncontrolled Narrative, and has been featured in Ancient Aliens, Mount Adams with John Vivananco, and the History Channel, UFO, Then and Now UFO Hotspots, ABC, Fox Network, BBC, Danny Dyer Special, and Paranormal State. He's a facilitator of many Eastern disciplines. A venerable Lama, Rinpoche, I probably am going to way mispronounce that, bestowed the name on him, which means Jewel of Pure Awareness. Rigzin Norbu, I think is what it's called, and I'll let James correct me if I'm not right. James, this is my first time. This is the first time we've ever spoken, and I have to admit I'm a little starstruck. I'm a little starstruck and very grateful that you chose to come speak with me on this hour and bring us kind of this show to its next level, its next echelon of information, which is our ET brothers and sisters. And there's so much that I want to ask you, and so much I want to talk to you about. Is there anything I said in your bio that you want to make a little vocabulary or course correction on? I know I massacred a couple of those great words.
No, it's fine. I that's the least favorite thing I like to hear about myself or talk about myself. But so I just let the work stand on its own, So, and I put my pants on one leg at a time like everybody else, and
right.
I'm not infallible, and I'm nobody's guru. I'm just here to remind you, that everything's within, basically.
Well, and we have a lot of mutual friends. I'm from the Portland area, and I have a lot of friends who've been to your ranch and spent time with you, and they all say the same thing. They're
Yeah.
like, James is just a regular guy. He's just a good guy who's been given this extraordinary assignment to help the people of this planet, to help us remember our star brothers and sisters and remember who we are and where we came from
Yeah.
and the direction of this planet. Is there anything else you want to kind of add to that?
Oh yeah, just a little heads up. I'm totally PC incorrect. So
Nice. I'm good
yeah,
with
yeah.
that.
So if you come here having expectations, be prepared, because I like to keep things grounded and keep people from getting into that guru program. And it's like a battery you're leaking. If you're connecting with all these external sources and you have all these gurus out there, your own energy is leaking. So we really try to bend everybody back within, to have their own experience, their own contacts and things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, and what they say is really true. We are our own guru, and there are some of us out there who are kind of specifically assigned to bring certain things, intel, information to the planet. But at the end of the day, it's just like you said, we all put on our pants, one leg at a time. And I really believe everybody on this planet has something specific and special that makes them unique and allows them to
Exactly.
be a contributor of this planet. So when we look at each other as co-contributors and co-creators, and great, I get to pick up that piece from you and that piece from you, and this is the pieces I'm going to put out into the world. Like we create this intricate tapestry of union, of oneness, and as brother sisterhood that just aligns us with that pure source energy that we're all here to remind each other of.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about being authentic. We all have
Right.
our own unique purpose for being here. And if we're trying to be somebody else, or if we're social engineered or all these other programs, we're totally disconnected from our power.
Right.
And it is all about going within and being you to the best of your ability. It's not about trying to be something else or someone else.
Right. And I follow you on Facebook, and I really resonate with everything that you write and everything that you talk about. And we kind of joked at you joking about being not PC. And in my opinion, we are not here to like transcend our human self and be these high lofty beings. We really are here to embody 3D, embody our human self, all the flaws, all the gifts, and have a sense of humor about it all. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be all serious, the spiritual stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is one of the problems. The whole PC correct thing, it's a control pattern.
Right.
It was created by the MK Ultra boys, to have everybody conform and controlled, and diminishes your joy and your bliss and everything else. So it's kind of sad, but people need to break out of that
Yeah.
and just exactly have fun down here. And there's one thing about the ascension process. I see so many people have it backwards. They're trying to go somewhere and leave
Right.
and go to some other high dimension. But the path to ascension is when you bring that higher consciousness and energy down into the physical body, into every cell, every atom of your being. And then the body starts vibrating faster and
Right.
faster and faster. And then boom, you ascend. So we have it backwards. It's not about leaving here. It's about being present, being fully here. That actually allows you to take the body with you. You can cross over and go to a very high dimension, but you're not going to take the body with you. And so you have to go through the birth canal again to come back in here, which is not so much fun, but if you make it, with the new laws out there right now, your chances are pretty not very good of even being born. But anyway, I don't want to get into politics, but anyway, there's so much going on right now on the planet. And what I see right now, we're in a world of opposites, and
Yes.
almost everything is opposite. You look at the Justice Department, it's Just Us Department. You look at almost everything. The environmental protection agencies are the Forest Services, the Deforest Service. They're big part of the Department of Agriculture. They're everything that we think is set up. Like a lot of the federal programs aren't even federal. You know, it,
Right.
like Federal Reserve is not federal. It's independent banksters. But everything is opposite right now. And what I'm seeing too is when you go into the news or you go into the watching, the lamestream news, you can almost just reverse everything they say or put I am or I did,
Mm-hmm.
in in the place of the person they're naming, or they're
Mm-hmm.
blaming. You just reverse that, put that, and then you'll get a better picture of what's really going on. So the narrative is extremely controlled on every level, and
Right.
especially in ufology. If people knew how much, we actually did a beautiful documentary on that called The Uncontrolled Narrative, and it shows how controlled the narrative is. I mean, right now the big news is a fuzzy tic tac, that two military jets saw, and they're bringing all of their people on board and famous people, and they're focusing on this fuzzy tic tac. Well, the problem is that fuzzy tic tac, we have ships from every size, shape, color, race. We know who they are, why they're here. We know some of their technologies, their origins, how they fit into our ancient origins. We have all that information, and they're focusing everything on this fuzzy tic tac.
Right.
And
It's all distract. It's all look, bright shiny objects. And, and I have taught for a very long time in my healing practice that we live in the bizarro world. Dark is light, good guys are bad guys are good guys. And
yeah,
it's all inverted. And so part of like, we talk about seeing through the matrix or, seeing through the veil. It's that realization that the narrative and the propaganda and the programming, that is controlling people still is it's just getting actually worse and worse. It feels like, the more enlightened we try and become, the more awake we try to become, like the harder it comes in.
Yeah, I just put a meme out just messing around. I kind of trigger people on Facebook now and then, and I put past lives matter,
I actually reposted that. And when we come back from our break, we're gonna go into that little meme you posted, because as a past life regressionist, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, he's so right on it. So we're going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to go into past lives matter, multidimensional lives matter, and all things having to do how our star families fit in with that. We'll see you in just a few moments. Welcome back to Tales from the Mer World Radio. My name is Ameera Mer Healer. This is the program, if you're just joining us, this is a program where we discuss esoteric concepts like Atlantis, Lemuria, ancient lands that are thought to be, mythology, in the mythological concept. And I bring them forward. Sometimes I talk myself. Sometimes I have these wonderful guests that come on my show, like today, Mr. James Gilliland of ECETI Ranch. We are discussing the final frontier, which is space and our extraterrestrial families. And James, welcome back. And before we left, I was mentioning that, I've been working as a past life regression therapist for many, many years. And in my experience, and I really want to get your thoughts on this, when I take people into these other realms and realities for healings and introduce them to these other aspects of themselves and remembering these other aspects, a lot of times people aren't human. A lot of times they find themselves, to be not in a human body, to be some kind of other form. And then I have to explain to them, well, you are a multidimensional being. And the other thing that happens is oftentimes they will have guides and angels who come in to their experience who don't look like an angel, like a typical angel with the big wings like we think of. They look very, very extraterrestrial. And I often explain to people, I believe that a lot of our guides and angels are us in other dimensions, us in other realities, and part of our oversoul. So if you have a team with you, most likely that team is part of the totality of your oversoul, and it's just another version of you in another dimension coming through to, communicate and give you some guidance in your human experience. What do you think about that?
Yeah, in the big picture, it's all you, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. When I was first awakening, and I had a couple near-death experiences, and then I had everything returned to me, all my memories of past lives, and a lot of them
right.
weren't here. They weren't on the planet, and I have full memory of those. But when I was first awakening, after the first near-death experience, I didn't want to talk to anybody else. They were all spooks, to me.
Hmm.
I just wanted to talk to Jesus, and that
Right,
and so he was appearing to me in my meditations on an inner level. And then he introduced me to Babaji. And then I started studying Eastern thought. And then he introduced me to White Eagle. And so I had to go study Native American teachings. And he took me through all the different cultures to learn about all of them. But what was really weird is that on one level, on a soul level, it's I'm kind of a Viking warrior on a soul level. That's one.
totally.
And then the next level up, I'm this guy Ameera, and he's a robed kind of a master, wears white robes and things like that. And then, these beings, that this Viking warriors appearing to me and saying, "I am you," and I had to heal some things there around that. And then I went to the next on the what people call the Christ self, or whatever you want to call it, level, was Ameera, and on the fifth dimension. And then so, he was saying, "I am you," and then another being was apparent to me above that, on these, because we're multidimensional beings
Right.
existing on a vibrational continuum. And so as I was going up the continuum, I was connecting with these different beings, and I was having a meltdown. My ego was just totally having a meltdown, going, "Who am I? This guy says he's me. This guy says he's me. All these things are happening." I was having a meltdown. And then Ezekiel, which is my God self on that level, came to me and he said, "It's all you."
Hmm.
And he said, "You need to let go of your identity." And he said, "Within you is the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness on all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse. And when you connect to that, it's all you. It's all you, and just have fun, have
Yeah,
fun along the way."
play.
So, yeah, and play and have fun. So anyway, so I realized too, when I went through the tunnel that everybody talks about, I ended up in this golden plane of bliss. It's just a golden white light of pure consciousness and energy, and the most love and joy and bliss that you can imagine. There's no words for it. And the first thing I asked was, "How can I stay?" And the voice came back to me. It says, "I never told my children when to come or go. That's free will." And so the next thing I asked was, "How can I earn the right to stay?" Because you're so blissed out, you're so grateful for
Right.
this experience. And it came back to me. It says, "You can't earn what is given freely and unconditionally." And I'm going, "Oh," so I'm having a meltdown. All my images of God are being destroyed right here. So
Right.
I go, and then so finally I said, you know, "I just want to serve. I just want to give back. And I want to teach people about the true nature of God, what it is. It's not male. It's not female. It's not a little old man with a beard and a laptop taking notes with a lightning bolt, that's going to punish people. And it doesn't even have an ego. It's beyond all that. It's imageless." And so I was in that plane of bliss, and they call it being in the cradle of God, whatever you want to call it, great spirit or whatever. And then the last thing I heard, was "As You Wish," and that's where the As You Wish talk radio came from. But and I was back in the body, and I was being pulled out of the water. It was a drowning episode. I was being pulled out of the water, and I was pulled up on the beach, and they went back to save other people at the time.
Hmm.
But that experience, from that experience, I have my own personal connection with Source. And so what I experienced in that, and subsequently, because of the near death experiences, I have an open door. I can go up and down that vibrational continuum.
Right.
And there's so many diverse beings, and every color imaginable, every race, size. It's beyond imagination. And we have everything pigeonholed here on the earth, that that earth was created in 6 days, what's that, 6,000 years ago or something. And there's this hamburger universe, Mihal calls it that. That there's God and the devil, and we're the hamburger in between. And when you die, you get a harp and a cloud. And when you and if you're a bad doobie, you go down into the burning pit,
Right.
So that's the mainstream program, and they don't realize is that there are so many levels to heaven. Even Jesus said, "My house has many mansions."
Right.
There's so many dimensions to heaven. They're inhabited, and they're inhabited by beings that are much more spiritually and technologically advanced than we are, going up to where they're so spiritually advanced they don't even need a body. They're just a light. They're just a brilliant light. So there's so much more to heaven, and the same with hell. There's many levels of lower
Right.
consciousness and energy as well. There's kind of really disfigured humans that didn't go anywhere because they were very heavy. They're very dark. They harmed a lot of people or whatever in the lower astral levels. And in the lower fourth dimension, you have everything from reptilian, some tall grays, some serpent beings, some really ugly stuff, demonic type
Right.
energies. And that does exist. But it's much more expanded than we were ever told. And the first thing that we teach here at the ranch is how to heal unseen negative influences and how to maintain your self-authority and how to connect with the help you need to if you're going to go, jumping dimensions and things like that. Because we do need, some people call them watch angels, some people call them guides and teachers, but you want to get into the fifth dimension on up, because those are in unity consciousness. Those beings are very high level. And you want to work with those levels on up and help maintain your self-authority and keep your energy clear and the information clear. And what's happening now on the planet, a lot of it, sad to say, there's a lot of people that haven't been trained. They don't know what they're connecting into. I mean, some are using Ouija boards and things like that. And if you don't know how to heal unseen negative influences, we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened. And just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And unfortunately, the ones that have hooked into some of the darker energies are at the top of the ladder, as far as name recognition. And that's a whole nother area in itself. But the ones that are totally into service to others, that are really here to serve and help and educate, are the ones that are part of that controlled narrative. They're like severed.
Yeah.
I know several people, that are in the field, like Peter Slattery. He's one of them. Mary Rodwell. There's quite a few people in this field that are very heart-centered. They're very clear. They're very service-oriented, and they're getting pushed out entirely of the field. So with us, what we did is we just created our own, radio show. We created our own center. We just created everything so to stop the censorship. And now
Right.
they can't censor it. And there's just a lot of jealousy and a lot of nonsense in the UFO community that needs to go.
Right.
It's not just nuts and bolts, and it's not just secret space force, and those things all do exist. It's not just German back engineering. It's so far beyond that. It goes up to the 13th dimension where we've gone, and it probably goes beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And in the teachings that I have learned, kind of backtracking a little bit to the different levels or different layers of heaven and hell, and what I have been taught by my guides is, when we pass, we go to the same level of consciousness that we died with.
Yeah, exactly.
So whatever your consciousness is at passing, that's the level of, because it's just a consciousness and without a form. That's where you go to continue your soul work. And that can look as different. There's 8 billion people on this planet. So that level of consciousness can look different 8 billion times.
Yeah, it's all frequency. And
right.
So you're known by your frequency, and your frequency is determined by the consciousness that you carry. And so if you carry a lot of love and joy and bliss and service to others, and that, you're going to be on a very high frequency. If you're into that greed and control and all that other nonsense that's going on, you're of a very low frequency, and you're going to go to a realm with others of like mind, and you're going to try to manipulate and control and compete
and be competitive. I see a lot of competitive people out there in the spiritual field. And humility and grace right now, I think, are our best ascension tools.
Yeah, I had a woman come up here, and she was telling everybody that she and I were competing to see who the first person is going to reach Christ consciousness, you know? And I said, yeah, that's exactly my response. I started laughing. I said, go for it. I said, you won.
Like, let me know how it's like. What
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it
I
like
said,
when you
go
get
for it.
there?
I go, there's no competition in Christ consciousness, you know, or there shouldn't be anywhere, but because we're all one anyway. But it was pretty funny. And I see that all the time. There is a lot of competition in the fields, and a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of backstabbing right now. It's getting
Yes.
really ugly out there. And, you know, I'm seeing who's really doing the backstabbing. And there are people that need to clean their act up in the field as well. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the backstabbers tie into these kind of Luciferian satanic groups that are controlling a lot of what we're seeing on TV right now. But
Well, and it's all tied to fear. Anybody who's in
yeah,
competition or anybody who is, in a race, it is really connected to fear
yeah,
and instead of trust in source.
yeah. I tell people, I said, the best thing you can do for me is to put me out of business. you know, Wake up, go beyond me, go beyond what I have to say or my frequencies. I'm all for that. I
Yeah.
would much rather be gardening or fishing or
Yeah.
anything else, but I do love helping people to awaken and heal and reminding people of their divinity. And I do enjoy that. But it gets old after a while because you get a lot of arrows, a lot of
It does. And I have really enjoyed, especially this year, watching the wave of awakening happening.
yeah.
And watching people who were so polarized to one side and so sure of their beliefs, like have these epiphany light bulbs, like, oh my gosh. And they're just, it's really fun to watch them be in awe and start to learn all these things that I remember what it was like for me when I started learning 12, 14 years ago and had my awakening, and now like getting to witness other people be in that, and their learning is so much quicker. Like, I feel like it took me so long back in the day to, like, when I was reading David Icke and I was listening to all these teachers and healers who are giving me awakening. It seemed like it took years and years and years for me to really integrate my shadows, which we're always doing, get these concepts in and kind of renew myself. And now I'm seeing people do it like they're just flying right through it. Uh-oh. What'd we lose? Are you there, Olivia? Okay. Am I still going? Okay. Hey, hang in there, everybody. Lots of high vibes going on right now. So, kind of like I was saying, and hopefully James will pop back on in a second, is the folks who are awakening right now. There's so many tools, and there's so many people who have paved the way for the ascension path and for the learning path, that it's really a great joy to see those of you who are coming into your own and really embodying your God self and your source self. It's really wonderful to see the accelerated pace and the excitement, and to bear witness to to this world really rising up and standing up on our feet together to bring in the new earth. And nobody really knows what the new earth is going to look like or how that's all going to play out. But the wave and the momentum, despite everything that might be going on in the media, or all the things that perceive to be going out on the planet, really there is this undercurrent of just glorious awakening and glorious hope and love, and it's going to be very exciting to see what 2021 brings on that wave. It's going to be very exciting to see, like, what the new children coming into the planet, what life is going to be like for them. And, Olivia, maybe we want to take just a quick 3-minute break. And yeah, there we go. You're on the same page as me, girl. We'll take a quick break and we'll see if we can get James back on when we return. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back to Tales from the Mer World Radio. If you're just joining us, my name is Ameera Mer Healer, and I am in the middle of a wonderful conversation with Mr. James Gilliland of ECETI Ranch. we lost him for a few minutes there. Sometimes when you go in those super high vibes, you know, technology doesn't want to do his thing, but luckily we've got a backup. James is back with us by telephone. And James, as they say in Hawaii, shoot.
Yeah, that was a good one. That's pretty common whenever we really get into the higher knowledge and wisdom. It seems like AI or something comes in there and pulls plug on it.
Yep, but there's always a backup plan. And, you know, as we go back into this conversation, I think one of the things I would really like to know, and I think our listeners want to know too, is what, you know, if your ET friend, your star family, those beings that you're in so close connection to, what do they really want us to know during this incredibly transformational time of 2020 about where the planet is headed and how we can best align our spirit, our essence, with the transformation of Gaia? What do they tell you?
You know, mostly they're telling me the same thing the lamas and yogis are saying, that we really need to get out in nature, you know, get your shoes off and, you know, readjust to the planetary energies. The shifts that are going on is one thing on one level. The other one is they really want us to go within and make our own personal connection with source, you know, whatever you call it, God, great spirit, creator, it doesn't matter, but that's their main focus. And then everything else comes with that. So contact comes with enlightenment. The more you focus on your own awakening and enlightenment, the more contact you're going to have with these multidimensional beings. Because, like, you know, Buddha said, the whole universe is within you. So they really want us to rise to the occasion. They want us to heal, you know, release the past, you know, clear out the wounds and traumas and raw conclusions from past experience to raise our frequencies so they can work with us. And that's their main message.
You know, it's very simple and timeless. I think all the great sages and seers have basically been speaking the same, that you know, nature really is our greatest healer. And this year on Kauai, you know, since COVID happened and the islands have closed down to visitors, you know, and there was 100,000 visitors a month on Kauai normally. And when all of that went away and it just went back to, you know, the residents living on Kauai, something very magical started to happen on the land. You know, the land began to heal and the land began to speak and express itself in a way that was so much more difficult to connect with all the traffic and all the people and all the energy. You know, you could go into the water and the fish were happier that there wasn't so many people. You know, the mountains were happier. The whole Aina, the whole land really kind of breathed this big sigh of relief. And I'm outside every single day. I'm at the beach or hiking or doing something barefoot every single day because I understand the power that's in that. And, you know, as COVID has been, you know, a blessing and a curse, and mostly a kind of a curse in many ways to the world, there have been blessings. And that is many humans have been given an opportunity to go deeper into connection with themselves, if they want to, if they choose to, connection with the land, and to really do a lot of self-evaluation, introspection, and maybe even some shadow healing, you know, through being kind of forced to be so separate, you know, from other people. So, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, you hit it on the nail on the head right there, because here at the ranch, when we have a big conference, when there's a lot of people here, you can feel the energy of the land building up before the conference. And when everybody comes here, it does deplete the energy a bit. You know, it's hard to be around all that collective consciousness and people at different levels of consciousness. And even when you come into the hall at times when you've got, you know, a couple 100+ people in here, it's kind of rough for people that are really expanded, you know, in consciousness, because through sympathetic resonance, you know, it wants to pull you to that level of the collective. and that's why nature's so good to get out in nature. But what I see is that, that I'm sure that's just on a bigger scale on the island there, is that everybody had a chance to really go within, and they weren't all the distractions there, and it was like, and that's what I see about the COVID thing too. And one thing about the COVID thing, what kills those viruses almost immediately is sunlight.
Right.
And salt water is probably the next the next one.
Sunlight,
And,
heat, humidity, joy.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't stand a chance. So lockdowns are actually creating your own little personal petri dish. It's
Right.
really dysfunctional. And I know we get a lot of heat for that because they're still doing the lockdowns everywhere. But the best thing to do would be to get out in nature. That's the best social distance you can do, is to get out in nature. Go hiking or something, or go anywhere. But and keep your own immune system up. And from what I've seen, and people that have got it, and I might have even gotten it myself. I don't even know, because it was probably so mild it didn't really affect me. But it's not anything. Even the WHO and the CDC are all talking. It's nowhere near as bad as the last flu that went through. And so there's, if you, I don't know if you want to go there, but a much bigger picture going on here, and other reasons for all the lockdowns and everything else.
Well, and fear is the biggest immune suppressant there is. And
Definitely.
when you take on a vibration of fear, you're automatically putting yourself in a position where you're vulnerable. And so to understand that everything has a consciousness, everything has a consciousness. This virus has a consciousness, and it is going to, like anything in the law of attraction, it's going to be mostly drawn to somebody who resists it, who fears it, or who looks at it as something as a threat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're closed down now because of winter, and
Right.
And there's no reason to really keep going. I mean, it's 28 degrees this morning, so camping's kind of rough and things like that. So we closed down a little bit early because of it, but just because we didn't want to deal with all the nonsense. But everybody here just went within and made their own decisions, and we left it up to the people. And if the people wanted to wear masks, we had them available. If they didn't want to, that was okay too. And
right.
And we cruised right through, and I saw no complications whatsoever. I haven't gotten any feedback from anybody saying, yeah, I got sick, or I got, and so, anyway, it's and here you're in such a high frequency anyway. I don't think that stuff can even almost exist here, but
exactly.
Yeah. But, we took all the precautions. We would clean all the door handles and wherever.
Well, you do the practical things. You do the practical, earthy things that make sense when there's a potential, illness around. Just the things that make sense, and not let it control your life, not let it control your joy or control your happiness. And most of all, let everybody have their own process of however they need to work through their feelings about it, and really just tune into what's your belief, what's your process, what serves you the best, instead of empathing anybody else's, situation or thoughts or beliefs. And that's really just called sovereignty.
Exactly. And for the people that are stuck in those programs, we had a lot of physical things happening here, because we had misters, and we had a big swamp cooler full of thieves and oregano and other things. So the whole air was full of antimicrobes,
antiviral,
bacteria and viruses. So it was it was a really healthy, clean environment, to be in. And I think it's all about education. If you want to go on the physical level, it's all about education. Just basically wash your hands and keep things clean. And don't cough. If you are sick, maybe you should. If you're really sick, maybe you should wear a mask. But otherwise, when they're finding out now that here's a really interesting one. We just went through all the fires up here.
Right.
And all the authorities and the CD said, don't count on your masks. They don't work for smoke. They won't filter out the smoke. right? Well, smoke is 1,000 times larger than a virus. And so, if they're saying it won't filter out the smoke, how in the heck they're going to filter out a virus, So there's just no common sense and no research involved around this. And now on a very mass scale, there are so many doctors and lawyers and all these people coming forward and they're saying, we're done. We're done with the deceptions. We're done with all the nonsense and everything else. And I mean, whole states are opening up and saying enough's enough. So
that's enough.
I think it's going to be in the past here real soon.
Yeah, and I always go back to, my belief is my divine blueprint is health.
Exactly.
My divine, what is in my DNA, I am programmed for health and wellness. And the more I make decisions that support my body's health and wellness, my spirit's health and wellness, the more that the potential, the possibility of some outside influence hijacking that, it just disappears, because I really do believe my core that I have an immune system that is meant to be self-managing, my management, and that can create a field of wellness within me and around me that allows me to, to walk in the health that God intended.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, I wanted to change subject a little bit if we could. I
Sure.
really wanted to go into the ancient history of Earth, which will help people understand, what's really happening. And
Please.
yeah, and so we've been colonizing the Earth. It was the antediluvian groups that were here with the floods and everything. Lyrians from ancient Lyra, and those are the really tall ones. We call them the cone heads.
Right.
And then they had the floods, and they had a major pole shift and serious problems. They were taken out, and then we had a second attempt, which were mainly the Palladians that set up the colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria, or Mu.
Thank you.
And yeah, and so those were Palladian colonies, and actually in between there was an Orion group that came here and colonized too. And so if we know the real history of humanity, it actually goes back to ancient Lyra. And then from there, they colonized the Pleiades, Hades, and Orion system. And from there, they came to Earth, Mars, and Maldek, which is the asteroid belt. It was blown up. But, there's been a lot of natural cataclysms. There's been wars. Atlantis and Lemuria had a great war along with that.
Right.
Actually set the cataclysms and the pole shift into motion. So we've been coming and going from the stars. We originally came from the stars here, and in Australia there's a place called Gosford Glyphs where everything is recorded, the real history of Earth, and it talks about the first ships coming here. It also talks about them finding a man developing here naturally called the Denisovian man, or a knuckle dragger, you might say. And it's all written in stone where they added their DNA to this knuckle dragger and jumped it up in consciousness. And that goes back to the ancient scrolls. All talk about that as well. So the Anunnaki, the Sumerian scrolls, things like that, they all talk about this. But we've been coming and going from the stars for a long time, and
Right.
we're just this big combination of beings from the star nations. The being the Aboriginal people were the original people that have been jumped up and hybrided, and then that whole hybridization system has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. So we keep getting upgraded, and a lot of people tune in this show. The reason you're tuning in the show is because you have been upgraded, genetically. And I know I'm really familiar with my own upgrades. I know whose DNA was used and when it happened and everything. So it's hard for people to contemplate, but if you imagine that we can actually, right now, we can take DNA and use a laser to transfer DNA, and water actually holds DNA as well. And when you think about that, how hard would it be for an advanced technologically advanced group to come here and actually add their DNA or change the DNA of a human to help, this shift in consciousness going on. And then you've got all these, everybody's worried about the big invasion that already happened. It's the souls that incarnated, from the Pleiades, from the Orion Council of Light, or from those other systems, that came in from the Andromeda systems, the Arcturian systems, all those different systems. We're just a big genetic soup down here of that, and an Earthman that was developing here naturally. So if you talk to anybody that's really worked, my nephew actually worked on the genome experiment, and he has some genes named after him, but there's so much alien DNA in that there's no way it could have developed naturally.
We could do a whole nother hour just on this topic. I wish we had it. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end. And James, before we go, please let our audience know where they can find you. What's your contact information? How can people get a hold of you or come visit the ranch?
Yeah, the best way is to go to the website at ECETI.org. It's ECETI.org, or you can go to ECETI Stargate on YouTube or BBS Radio and bbsradio.com, As You Wish Talk Radio. And that's where you can get all the latest updates. And I've written 4 books, and there's all kinds of books and DVDs available if you want to learn more about what's been happening up here.
Yay, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us for this last hour. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy and all the knowledge that you carry, and most of all, everything you are doing for the collective out in the world. My name is Ameera Beth Mer Healer. You can find me at ameerabeth.com. Tales from the Mer World is on Transformational Talk Radio every 2nd and 4th Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And once again, thanks to James for all his wonderful information. And I will look forward to seeing you all on the next episode in November. Aloha.